guys, this is Dan. Welcome back to my channel. In the last 2 years when I read more, I usually look up on different social medias to look for any fantasy book recommendation. Of course, we're gonna come across with big titles like Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb, or maybe First Law series by Joe Abercrombie. But with the more I read, I started to get a bit more confident, just a bit, to choose my own books to read. We all love discovering hidden gems, and so in today's video, I will bring you guys some underrated fantasy books that deserve so much more love. So in my mind, what is an underrated fantasy book? I had a look earlier on Goodreads when I come up with this list of recommendations. The list I have here is obviously all fantasies, and majority of them got ratings of below 6,000 on Goodreads. One of them do exceed this number, but later I will tell you why I still wanna recommend this book to you guys. One book even got less than 1,000 ratings, which I think is crazy. Compared to other very popular books, let's say House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, over 900,000 people have rated this book on Goodreads. The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, 800,000. Malazan Book 1, 100,000. Recent release like Empire of the Vampire by J. Christoph got 60,000 rating. So now you got a grip of what I mean by underrated fantasy book. Anything that is below this number, I mean far below this number, is considered as an underrated book. What makes this list a bit more special is that I try to incorporate with different kind of fantasy books, not just the good old epic fantasy, but also those blending in with different elements, different subgenres. If you want to know what they are, just stay tuned and you will find out really soon. So maybe we can start with the one that I said is not so underrated. The reason why I still want to include this book here is only because I have heard quite a lot of people quitting this series only just after finishing the first book. But now I am 3 books into this series, and I would say it is quite a surprise. It was really good. I have The Dragonbone Chair by Ted Williams, the first book of the Memory, Sorrow and Thorn series. It is quite a popular book because on Goodreads, over 74,000 people have rated it, but I have just seen so many people giving up after finishing it, thinking this may be just another very classic epic fantasy series. If you haven't heard about this series before, Memory, Sorrow and Thorn is a very classic epic fantasy series which follow our main character called Simon, who is like a kitchen boy working in a castle. One day his life suddenly turned upside down because of a conspiracy in the castle, and later he has to start his own journey. This series in short is the good old battle between the good and the evil. I understand why many, including me, feels this book a bit on the weaker side. The pacing of this book is actually quite slow. Not until by the end of the 20% of this book, we finally got some more knowledge or direction about the world building. Majority of the time it is like about Simon, his life in the castle, or maybe his adventure in the wild. But because Simon is such a blank paper in the first book, he would make mistakes. He has so much to learn about this world, or how he has to make a decision on his own. So the first book feels like not much is actually going on and the pacing is quite slow. But let me tell you one thing, currently I am reading the 3rd book of this series, which is To Green Angel Tower Part 1. If you have time, I encourage you to pick this series up because this whole journey would be so rewarding. Yes, Simon is such a blank paper in the first book, but the growth of him in the next 2 books will be so exceptional. You may say he starts really slow and then won the Greatest Improvement Award. But seeing him thinking on his own, finding out what he values the most, or maybe considering the bigger picture and not just his own interest, Even the side characters admire his growth in just 1 year, which is like so heartwarming, you know what I mean? It just tells you how much Simon has gone through and how much he has grown since the beginning. Also, in the first book, we are just following the journey of Simon alone. But then, starting from the second book, Ted Williams includes chapters of the side characters, and they are all entertaining. It gives the chance for these side characters to shine, no matter they seems to be the hero or the evil in the story. Some of them could be quite risky, which I totally enjoy. We also got to see outside Simon how these side characters are doing, because we have met them all in the first book. Through their chapters, we got so much to learn about this world and how intricate the relationship of these characters and the plot are as well. So if you put this series down just because you have finished the first book, or maybe you're sort of worried or scared just because of this kind of comments, or maybe you are into character growth or intricate plot, don't worry, this whole journey will be so rewarding. From now on, all the books I am going to talk about will got a significantly lower rating, not in terms of how many stars they have, but in terms of how many people have finished them or rate them on Goodreads. Maybe we can start with the one that I have talked about it before, and still on Goodreads, the number of people who have rated this book doesn't change that much. Maybe because I am just a little potato on booktube. And I have the Silverblood Promise by James Logan, the first book of the Last Legacy series. I believe I have talked about this book quite a lot before, only because I did enjoy this adventure. This one is leaning more on the mystery adventure side of fantasy. It is about Lucan, who was seen as a disgrace of his family, and he wanted to find out the truth of his father's mysterious death. With a coat left by him, Lucan traveled to a new city called Sophrona, where everything gonna have a cost. I really enjoyed this journey of Lucan trying to collect all the evidence, all the clues in this new dangerous city. We are like teaming up with Lucan to try to find the truth of his father's death, but there seems to be a bigger political scheme behind. It is really fast-paced and intense. The landscape of Sophrona is so different from here and there were just too much to see. It is also full of dangers, so this adventure is quite dangerous. I also enjoy his banter with a companion that he met in this new city, who was called Flea. Like her name, you can already imagine she was a street rat, but Lucan was coming from a noble family. So the interaction throughout this book is always fun and bring out so much entertainment value in some very intense scene. So don't mind me being a broken record. If you enjoy a fast-paced fantasy adventure with some sort of mystery elements in it, go and check this one out. The sequel will be out later this year, and I believe it will be around October. So it is the perfect time to start this series. The next one I have is a bit niche because it is on the horror gothic side. I have Strange Beasts by Susan J. Morris. I was a bit scared to start this one because it is horror, which is a genre that I don't read at all. But after finishing this one, I would say it is right up my alley. By the way, this book got less than 1,500 ratings on Goodreads, which I am shocked. This one is set in the 19th century Paris, in which we follow our main character called Sam, who can get into the mind of the monsters. As a researcher for the Royal Society for the Study for Abnormal As a researcher for the Royal Society for the Study of the so hard to say. Royal Society for the Study of Abnormal Phenomena. She would partner with Hal, who was the daughter of the criminal mastermind Moriarty. Together, they would investigate a series of murders taking place in Paris. Knowing Hal's reputation, all her previous working partners are all now dead. Sam would still agree to work with her only because this murder seems to have connection to her grandfather, who she lost contact with. So they would travel to Paris and find out who is behind all of these murders. I enjoy this investigation with Sam and Hal. This investigation is going to be dangerous because this murder seems to be committed by a monster. So the safety of Sam and Hal were never certain. Again, we are like teaming up with Sam and Hal and to collect all the clues, all the evidence along the way to try to see who is the mastermind behind everything. By the way, I guess it right, but still the whole story is really entertaining. The thing I love the most about this series is the slow burn chemistry between Hal and Sam. It was an element that I didn't usually enjoy because I am always so impatient, but in this book it was just executed pretty well. Sam got this special power to get into the mind of the monsters, but this power is forbidden and could lead up to her banishment if people find it out. Hal was the daughter of a criminal mastermind, but who Hal was really? Other than investigating this kind of brutal murders, these two were slowly opening up their insecurities to each other, which was so good to read. I did enjoy it. I would definitely recommend this book to those of you who enjoy a gothic horror. If you are into mystery, you may check this one out, but remember, there are some quite graphic scenes about the victims of these murders, so be careful and watch out. Make sure your heart can take it first. After something scary, I have a wholesome, cozy fantasy. It is also a surprise to me because when I first came across with this one, I had no expectation at all because it didn't sound like something that I would enjoy, but I was wrong. I have Sorcery and Small Magics by Maiga Doocy, the first book of the Wilderson trilogy. This one is about Leo, who was the master of small magics, but one day he mixed up with a grand spell, making him connected to his long-term nemesis called Grimm. No one can discover it. No one should find out Leo played with a forbidden spell. So he has to find a way to undo this magic. With all the efforts, the only way left is to enter the Forbidden Land. What I do love about this book is kind of similar to how I feel about Strange Beasts, but in this one there's no like scary brutal monsters. But with the journey of Leo and Grimm, they will share their inner feelings to each other even though they are long-term nemesis. Leo will open up his insecurities of why he just play with the small magics but never the grand spell. Let alone he has to perform one for an examination later. Also because of this spell, Leo was so emotionally connected to Grimm, making this whole situation more dramatic in a sense. If you want a quick, fun, easy read but filled with some heartwarming moments, this book is for you. The last one I have is a recent finish, and it is so different because it is my very first translated fantasy. I have Blood of the Old Kings by Sung Il Kim, translated by Anton Her, and it is the first book of the Bleeding Empire series. This one you can tell already is like a shorter epic fantasy. In this world, dead priests were used as a power source to bring stability and peace, but it was a lie. In this story, we will follow three main characters. First of all, we have Lauren, whose family was killed by the oppressive rule of this empire. She later made a deal with a chained dragon to revenge for her family. One of the close friends of King was killed. He swore to find out the truth behind this murder. And last, Arian, a young priest who wanted to live her own life and avoid the fate of being a battery when she was dead. At first, when I read this synopsis, I thought, where's the link between all these characters, which was also my doubt before starting this book. But after completing it, I would say it was so smart and intricate how these priests are connected, how these characters are going to come together, what sort of problems or mysteries they have to deal with. I enjoy the investigation with King. I always love a mystery if you can't tell already from this recommendation. How Ariane slowly understands this world more, and her chapters always provide us some background information about the history of this empire. Lauren's chapters is always action-packed because she is aimed for the revenge she will bring up an army. If you want a page-turning, fast-paced epic fantasy, don't forget to check this one out. So these are the 5 underrated fantasy books I want you guys to read. Which one sounds interesting to you, or do you have any other underrated fantasy recommendation? You can share all your thoughts down in the comment below. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel Dantasy so you won't miss anything from me. I'll see you all real soon. Goodbye!